Part 1. In Chapter Vernier's account begins with his arrival at the wharf, escorting Fornella as his prisoner. Vaelin Al Sorna is present, watching a departing ship with someone he cares for aboard. Weakened since the charge at Altor, Vaelin now shows renewed strength from recent battle. He offers Verniers a farewell, best wishes, and warns against trusting Fornella despite her oath. Verniers carries books gifted by Brother Harlock from the Great Library, hoping they contain traces of the Ally, a malign force he seeks to uncover. As they walk, Vaelin cautions that the Ally will likely notice Vernier's search and insists the realm cannot wait idly for attack, even with the risks of taking the capital. At the ship, Verniers recalls its captain with bitterness, suspecting Vaelin's hand in the choice. Before parting, Vaelin admits to lying in past accounts, promising the truth if they both survive, leaving Verniers burdened by memory and resentment. In Chapter 1, Lyrna awakens in the snow, burned and near death, but is rescued and taken to a tent where Vaelin Al Sorna assures her Iltis is alive. Weaver's healing has miraculously restored her face, leaving faint scars. Lyrna regains strength and appears before her army, declaring herself queen, revealing her healing by the dark and abolishing laws against gifted powers. She delivers a rallying speech, uniting her forces with the cry, "Toil, blood, and justice," and announces a march on Varenshold. In council, Lyrna orders a coastal campaign to secure supplies and block enemy reinforcements, appointing Vaelin as Battle Lord, Count Marvin as Sword of the Realm, and El Nestra as Fleet Lord. She sentences captured enemies to execution after interrogation. Lyrna thanks Weaver, who cryptically says she gave more than any other. Brother Canis pledges the Sixth Order's loyalty, but reveals his group belongs to a secret order, hinting at deeper intrigue. In Chapter 2, Aloysius lives under Lord Darnell's rule in occupied Varenshold, secretly observing enemy movements and sending coded messages through a single surviving carrier pigeon. He regularly visits imprisoned aspects Dendrish and Alara in the Blackhold, providing books and medicine while discreetly gathering information. Aspect. Alara warns him cryptically about dangers ahead. Later, Aloysius is summoned by Darnell, who interrogates a Valerian sailor reporting that their fleet was destroyed by a burned sorceress and a massive shark. Darnell also reveals the death of Lord Wenders, and evidence suggesting Graelin, a Sixth Order storeminder, used the dark to aid the Red Brother. Darnell orders Aloysius to question the aspects about this discovery, threatening to hand them over to the Valerians. Darnell announces he will lead his knights personally to capture the Red Brother and secure his son, intensifying the tension in Varenshold as Aloysius navigates dangerous loyalties and prepares for the coming conflict. In Chapter 3, Frentis wakes from a vision of the woman inhabiting a new body, wielding powerful stolen gifts and consolidating influence within the Valerian Council. She seeks the Allies' favor and schemes to replace Councilman Lorvek, her control growing as she waits for Frentis. In the Renphalin borderlands, Frentis leads his company within Baron Banders' rebel army of knights, peasants, and brothers of the Sixth Order, preparing to strike Varenshold. He reunites with Brother Avern, who confirms only 100 brothers remain. Banders debates strategy, wary of Valerian reinforcements, but Frentis and Solus urge an attack using sewer access to seize the city's gates. The force rides south, joined by Lady Eulis, Devoka, and their hardened companions camping deep in Azraelan territory. That night, Frentis struggles with exhaustion and dreams of the woman's growing power and loneliness. The chapter highlights both sides' preparations, her manipulation, and the rebels' determination to retake Varenshold. In Chapter 4, Riva investigates 2 corpses with Vaelin, Markin, and Alornis, confirming one was the priest who kidnapped her as a child and murdered her grandparents under the influence of the Sons of the True Blade. Markin shares memories revealing church complicity and provides names for Riva to pursue. Determined to lead troops to Varenshold, Riva refuses to remain behind despite Vaelin's concern. Later, she discusses rebuilding with Velis and affirms loyalty to Queen Lyrna's crusade. Riva confronts the bishops, intimidating them into electing the senile bishop of the Riverland parish as the new reader to dismantle corruption without bloodshed. She reflects on her transformation through war and trauma, training with her grandfather's sword. Alornis visits, expressing support and affection while resolving to search for Aloysius and Benril. Riva's resolve hardens as she prepares for the coming campaign, wielding a new blade and taking charge of justice, politics, and leadership in Cumbrael. In Chapter 5, Lyrna strengthens her alliances, beginning with the Airhill, earning their respect by joining their scouting ride. They encounter Tower Lord Albera leading 20,000 reinforcements from the southern shore, bringing supplies and news of victories over Valyrian forces. Lyrna organizes a supply plan and sets a rendezvous with Meldonian allies at Warnsclave. On the march, she inspires loyalty, notably naming Norda's company the Queen's Daggers, but resists becoming intoxicated by adoration. She interviews Brother Canis, confirming the Seventh Order's survival and their knowledge of the ally, though his gift remains secret. Lyrna restructures the Realm Guard under Lord Marshal Travick, unifying them for war. At Warnsclave, they find the town destroyed and its survivors drowned. Lady Dorena's reconnaissance reveals the Earlish burned, a Renfilin army near Varenshold, and a Valyrian force responsible for the massacre. Lyrna orders the recovery of bodies, sends envoys to the Renfilin force, and dispatches Vaelin to annihilate the killers. In Chapter 6, Vaelin leads a coordinated assault on a Valyrian force near Warnsclave, encircling and routing them with Nilsalan cavalry, Eorhill horsemen, and Orvan's guard. During the charge, he loses his sword and nearly dies, but is saved by Norda and his horse, Scar, who fights fiercely. After the battle, Vaelin reflects on his weakened abilities and the loss of his song, training with Riva and Sergeant Davern to regain his edge. He grows closer to Dorena, sharing a bond formed when she brought him back from the Beyond, though the Siorda now feared them both. Meanwhile, he observes Queen Lyrna's growing charisma and power, worrying about her relentless drive for vengeance. Vaelin later confronts Brother Canis about past secrets, learning he orchestrated Michael's protection and revealing himself as deeply tied to Aspect Greylin's plans. Their tense exchange underscores growing mistrust, even as the Meldonian fleet approaches, signaling the next phase of the war. In Chapter 7, Lucius learns from Aspects Dendrish and Alara that Master Greelin is dead and sets out to find a hidden wine stock, uncovering a secret Seventh Order hideout beneath the city. There he meets Sisters Crazia and Inela and Brother Relkin, the only surviving Seventh Order members in Varenshold. They trust him to bring supplies and share news, revealing their desperate situation. Returning to the surface, Lucius overhears his father, Lakerhill Alhestian, planning Varenshold's defense, including traps and inner-city barriers, and dismissing rumors of Queen Lyrna's resurrection. However, reports confirm Tokrev's army was destroyed, Lyrna leads a northern host, and reinforcements will arrive for the Valyrians in 30 days. A wounded rider delivers urgent news, prompting Lakerhill to mobilize cavalry. Lucius releases his messenger pigeon, Blue Feather, carrying critical intelligence to allies, committing to action despite his father's orders. The chapter underscores looming siege preparations, rising resistance, and Lucius's growing defiance. In Chapter 8, Frentis leads Banders's force through the devastated Earlish, encountering a massive wolf that guides him to Darnell's poorly defended camp. Frentis lures Darnell's knights into a trap at Lurkin Spur, where Bander's army and Sixth Order archers ambush them. However, Valyrian cavalry arrive, forcing a chaotic battle. Frentis duels Darnell, wounds him, but the Fief Lord escapes with Valyrian escorts. Rencial, Devoka, and the Sixth Order brothers fight fiercely, killing many Kuritai and cavalry. Afterward, Banders and his captains debate their next move, deciding to pause near the Nilsalan border, while scouts search for reinforcements, delaying Frentis's infiltration plans. That night, Frentis dreams through the Red Sister's eyes, witnessing her cruelty and experiments in Volar. He awakens shaken, doubting himself but comforted by Devoka. Later, Frentis and Devoka meet Inshakaforna, an Eorhill warrior, and Brother Lyrniel, who bring word from Queen Lyrna, signaling that support and coordination are near. In Chapter 9, Lyrna manages the growing refugee population in Warnsclave while struggling to feed and shelter over 30,000 new arrivals. She orders Dorena to return to the northern reaches to oversee gold mining, securing funds for the war. Lyrna meets Lady Trella Aloren, who reveals her gift and bravery in saving children and invites her to join the army's gifted. She interrogates captured Valyrian noblewoman Fornella, who confesses the Valyrians' centuries-long pact with the ally, immortality through the blood of gifted captives. Lyrna assigns Fornella and Lord Verniers to deliver this testimony to Alpyra, seeking an alliance. After farewells, Lyrna reflects on Vaelin's loyalty and dismisses feelings of jealousy. Later, Captain Beloroth brings urgent intelligence from Meldonian spies, a planned attack on Varenshold during Winterfall Eve, and confirmation that aspects Alera and Dendrish are imprisoned in the Blackhold. This news intensifies Lerna's urgency to act before the Valyrians strike. In Chapter 10, Lucius navigates the tension in Varenshold as Darnell's authority crumbles and Valyrian commander Mervek plans interrogations. He secretly collaborates with Krisha, Relkin, and Anela to rescue aspects Alera and Dendrish from the Blackhold and coordinates with Queen Lerna's forces, revealing his role as a Meldonian spy. Lucius retrieves a poisoned dagger hidden at Alornis's abandoned home, preparing to assassinate Darnell during the arrival of Valyrian reinforcements. At the docks, Krisha's powers cause Darnell's horse to panic, creating chaos. Lucius attempts to strike, but is wounded, forcing his father, Lakerhil Alhestian, to kill Darnell with a concealed wrist spike. As battle erupts in the harbor and black arrows rain down, Lucius bleeds out in his father's arms, urging him to save the aspects. His death marks a pivotal turn in the struggle for Varenshold, signaling both his sacrifice and the beginning of Lerna's coordinated assault. In Chapter 11, Frentis and his allies plan an attack on Varenshold to rescue the aspects. Guided by Brother Lerniel's visions, they prepare for Winterfall Eve, deciding to infiltrate the city through its sewers. Frentis leads Devoka, Draker, and 34 into the city, slipping through a narrow drain and killing guards to open the gate. Baron Banders and his knights charge in, splitting the city's defenses. Frentis' team pushes through the Blackhold, facing fierce resistance from Varatai, Free Swords, and Akuratai. Ilian saves Frentis with a crossbow shot, showcasing her skill. They descend to the dungeon, where Ilian kills a Free Sword moments before he executes a captive woman who reveals her brother Relkin's death. Using keys, they free Aspect Dendrish, who demands news of Alera. They find her calm but captive, confirming Lucius's involvement. Ivern arrives with orders from Solace. Abandon holding the fortress and move quickly to secure the docks, signaling the battle's escalation. In Chapter 12, Vaelin leads a daring naval assault to seize Varenshold's docks, sailing captured Valyrian ships loaded with Siorda warriors and archers. As they approach, he witnesses Lucius's failed assassination attempt on Lord Darnell, resulting in Lucius's mortal wounding and Darnell's death at Lakerhil Alhestian's hand. Vaelin orders an immediate attack, abandoning their infiltration plan. Riva's archers and the Siorda unleash devastating volleys, overwhelming the Valyrian forces and scattering the Free Swords, while Varatai formations attempt a retreat. Baron Banders and his knights storm through the gates, splitting enemy lines as Norda's fighters and archers press the attack. Vaelin secures control of the docks, orders the Realm Guard to secure Alhestian and Lucius's body, and prepares for a full advance on the palace. Frentis arrives, reunited with Vaelin after his captivity, but is immediately shackled by the Queen's order for King Malchus's murder. The chapter marks Varenshold's liberation, but sets up political reckoning. Part 2. In Vernier's account, Verniers travels aboard a ship to Elpyra, sharing a cabin with Fornella, who is now his prisoner. She reveals Valyrian history, explaining that centuries ago the Empire's unity was forged through religious purges, mass enslavement, and cruelty, traits that drew the Allies' attention. A young general, blessed by the ally, created the Varatai and Kurite, introduced immortality, and became the Council's voice until he was assassinated for his growing madness. His daughter, a deadly assassin, remains a threat. Fornella's mother recognized that the Empire became enslaved to the Allies' power. Fornella later shares intelligence. The ally seeks a mysterious immortal man, not bound by gifted blood, who has lived countless lifetimes and evaded capture. Known by many names, he was last identified as Erlin in the Unified Realm 15 years ago. This conversation confirms the Allies' far-reaching schemes and the Empire's deep corruption, setting up greater revelations. In Chapter 1, Queen Lyrna reflects on Lucius's sacrifice as his body is burned, naming him Sword of the Realm, while his father, Lakerhil, is imprisoned for treason. Lyrna secures Devoka's loyalty and hears petitions, including Lady Ilian's request to join the Sixth Order, which she approves despite her father's protests. At a council meeting, Lyrna orders mass conscription and commissions a fleet to invade Valyria, naming Sergeant Davern as Master Shipwright. She confronts Lakerhil Alhestian, sparing his life but sentencing him to lead the Dead Company, a unit of traitors and criminals condemned to fight until death. Lyrna spends time comforting refugee children before meeting Caral, sent by the Malessa with 2 gifts: a mysterious vial capable of breaking unseen chains and her own service. Kiral seeks Vaelin, the one who lost his song, to share hers. Lerna's preparations show her determination to rebuild the realm and carry the war into Valeria. In Chapter 2, Vaelin attends a conclave of the surviving aspects and orders in the ruined house of the Sixth Order. Despite initial doubts, all orders agree to support Queen Lyrna's plan to invade Valeria, recognizing the threat of the ally and the need for decisive action. Aspect Corvin, the last of the First Order, debates Vaelin's views of the Beyond, while Master Renciel recounts Valerian torture, underscoring the enemy's obsession with the gifted. Vaelin later speaks with Lyrna, who confirms her resolve and meets Kiral, now freed from possession and serving the Malessa. Kiral shares memories of her captor and reveals she can hear a distant ancient song from an immortal man Vaelin once met, Kurlis, also known as Erlin. Believing him vital to defeating the ally, she offers to guide Vaelin to him. This sets Vaelin on a mission to seek the Immortal's help, further entwining prophecy and strategy in the coming war. In Chapter 3, the Allies' voice addresses the Valerian Council, declaring their invasion a failure and warning of Queen Lyrna's plans to strike back. She orders massive conscription, the recall of free swords, and increased garrisons to prepare for the realm's retaliation. Meanwhile, in Varenshold, Lyrna interrogates Frentis, absolving him of blame for King Malcius's death but withholding forgiveness. She demonstrates a powerful Lonak toxin that freed Frentis's mind by using it on a captured Kuritai, revealing his true name, Lekrin, and gaining his loyalty. Frentis begins preparations for a dangerous mission to Valeria as a diversion. Lekrin joins him, seeking vengeance, and Devoka entrusts Frentis with vials of the potent toxin. On the Shipsea Saber, Frentis reunites with Ilian, Draker, 34, Master Renciel, and other loyal companions who refuse to abandon him. The mysterious healer Weaver is also aboard. Their departure sets the stage for a covert strike deep into enemy territory. In Chapter 4, Riva travels through Cumbrel, enforcing Queen Lyrna's Edict of Conscription, gathering forces for the coming war. She rescues Elis, Lord Brador's abused daughter, and takes her to Altar under her protection, entrusting Velis with her care. Riva's return sparks celebrations, but tension rises as Velis disapproves of the Queen's invasion plans. Riva tours the fief, facing resistance from villagers like Riala Varesh, yet gains loyalty by honoring their sacrifices. Over a month, she assembles 500 fighters, many from regions devastated by Valerian raids, and strengthens Altar's defenses while shifting resources from wall repairs to rebuilding homes for winter. Riva spares traitorous priests, stripping them of status instead of executing them, choosing justice over revenge. She begins training Elise in combat and initiates her adoption to secure her future. A letter from Lyrna orders Riva to South Tower by Ilnasur's End, confirming the fleet will sail before spring. In Chapter 5, Vaelin leads a dangerous expedition north through the Skellen Pass to cross the ice and seek Erlin, hoping his ancient knowledge will aid their fight against the ally. Queen Lyrna reluctantly approves, appointing Count Marvin as battle lord in Vaelin's absence, and refuses to forgive Frentis despite sending him on a mission. Vaelin travels with Kiral, Lord Marshal Orvin's guard, gifted allies, and later reunites with Wisebear, Ironclaw, and Dorena, who insists on joining. Guided by Wisebear's sensing of power storms, they investigate the fallen city, discovering remnants of immense power taken by the Dark. They gain an escort of 100 Centaur under the hostile Alturk, and face attacks from dissenting Lonak factions. Along the way, Dorena shares her tragic past, earning respect among the Centaur. The group hunts seals to prepare food and hides for the crossing, as Wisebear warns the ice journey will claim lives, emphasizing the grave danger ahead. In Chapter 6, Queen Lyrna faces losses and prepares for war, as the Siorda and most Eorhil warriors depart, though some choose to stay. She rejects Count Marvin's suggestion to send forces in waves, insisting on a single overwhelming assault on Valeria. At the docks, Alornis's revolutionary ship design leads to the launch of the King Malcius, with plans to replicate it across shipyards. Lyrna exposes Arena as a vessel of the ally, foiling a poisoning attempt. Arena confesses her tragic bond to the ally, begs for release, and is killed, her scream haunting witnesses. Winter strikes early, worsening suffering, but shipbuilding and weapon production accelerate. Lyrna oversees legal reforms by Aspect Dendrish, who introduces a new 3-judge system. Alornis debuts a rapid-fire, steel-armed ballista capable of piercing Valerian armor at long range, earning praise from Count Marvin. The chapter underscores mounting preparations, rising tensions, and Lerna's determination to strike Valeria with overwhelming force. In Chapter 7, Frentis and his company sail toward Valeria, choosing to land in Ischethia to disrupt the Empire and free slaves before Queen Lyrna's invasion. In Volar, the Allies' voice executes the council, introduces the elite Arasai warriors, and senses Frentis' approach, vowing to confront him. Frentis' group begins a brutal campaign, attacking villas, freeing slaves, and recruiting fighters. They rescue Lissel, whose husband was killed, and Tekrav, a scribe, who begins helping them. Ilian and Lamera, a freed Alperan woman, join the effort while Weaver heals a bound Veritae, condemning cruelty. Frentis' group captures another villa, kills its master, and frees more Veritae through the Lonak elixir, though many slaves remain fearful or loyal to their former masters. 34 discovers records leading to a southern Vericum, a training school for elite gladiator slaves, which they plan to infiltrate. Their growing force embraces fear and chaos as tools in their covert war against Valeria. In Chapter 8, Vaelin leads his party across the northern ice toward the islands, guided by Wisebear, who warns of the deadly long night. Facing extreme cold and dwindling supplies, Wisebear teaches the gifted to share power, restoring Kara's strength and helping them survive. A brutal blizzard forces Kara to create a protective bubble, supported by the others at great cost, until the storm ends. Soon after, they witness a massive ice sheet breaking away, narrowly escaping death. Later, tracks reveal one of their men was taken by predators. Wisebear identifies them as warcats controlled by a shaman named Shadowed Path, also called No Eyes. The group confronts him, and Wisebear uses his power to weaken him, leaving him helpless to die. Vaelin rejects the creature's pleas, confirming its ties to the witch's bastard. With Shadowed Path defeated, Wisebear gains control of surviving warcats, and Vaelin prepares for further dangers ahead. In Chapter 9, Lyrna appoints Tower Lord Albera as Lord Chamberlain, tasking him with restoring order in Azraelan lands while she leads her fleet east. She reassures Arena, who reveals memories showing the Valerian Empress's past and the potential for change. Lyrna departs Varenshold with a massive fleet facing winter storms, while Alornis demonstrates Ravena's lance, a devastating flame weapon, and trains guardswoman Farella as her assistant. Tensions rise between Lyrna and Elnestra, and Lyrna reflects on Alornis' hardened resolve. At sea, the fleet captures a Valerian ship carrying Councilman Arkla Ventral, who reveals the council was destroyed and the Empress now rules directly under the ally. Using Brother Varen's truth-sensing gift, Lyrna confirms Arklev's lies and uncovers his connection to the ally through ritual scars. She orders Devoka to interrogate him further, determined to gain intelligence before their invasion. Lyrna's leadership hardens as the fleet prepares for imminent war. In Chapter 10, Frentis leads his fighters to ambush a heavily guarded caravan bound for the Vericum, freeing slaves and capturing weapons. They infiltrate the fortress disguised as guards, quickly overwhelming defenders and liberating over 100 Garrisai, though many remain distrustful. Ivelda emerges as a key ally, and their rebellion grows through further raids on plantations, freeing more slaves and Veritae. As their numbers swell past 500, Frentis learns of a 1,000-strong Valerian force in pursuit. He devises an ambush in a canyon, using fire and smoke to disrupt enemy formations. The battle is brutal but decisive, with many Veritae killed or captured, and some free swords allowed to escape to spread fear. Meanwhile, the Empress senses Frentis' victory through their psychic link, amused yet focused on her own mission. She orders witnesses slaughtered and prepares to confront Lyrna's approaching fleet, summoning her power to unleash devastation, signaling a looming confrontation. In Chapter 11, Vaelin's group endures a brutal 2-day storm that kills many horses and centaur warriors, forcing them to shelter on a drifting ice floe. After days at sea, they reach islands once inhabited by the bear people and repair abandoned huts before continuing south, training the gifted to control Wisebear's warcats. Kiral senses danger, and Wisebear leads a small party to meet the wolf people. They are confronted by Shamaness Many Wings, her son Asterek, and their warriors who invite Vaelin's group to Wolf Home. There, Vaelin learns the wolf people's history through cave paintings. The great boat people once visited, spreading deadly disease, but a woman's sacrifice saved them. A bearded man from their party vanished north with her body, leaving a prophecy of a future savior called the Raven Shadow. Vaelin is stunned to recognize himself in the ancient image, realizing their journey is tied to this prophecy. Part 3. In Vernier's account. Verniers and Fornella dock in Marbellus, observing the city's slow recovery from war. Their ongoing research into myths and the Allies' origins yields multiple stories about the Endless Man, including a Meldonian tale of Urlan, a man who sought the old gods. Vernier speaks with the captain, who describes eerie statues on the Isles that cause visions of a peaceful ancient city. The captain recounts different legends of Urlan, suggesting he was exiled for his knowledge rather than cursed. Later, the captain shares grim news. Emperor Aloran of Alpira has died, naming Lady Emmerin Nasser Ailers as Empress Emmerin I. This revelation shifts the political landscape, adding urgency to Vernier's quest. The chapter blends myth, history, and prophecy, linking Urlan and the old gods to ancient civilizations while foreshadowing tensions under the new empress, tying Vernier's scholarly search to unfolding events that may decide the fate of empires. In Chapter 1, Vaelin and his companions remain with the wolf people through the long night, training and recovering. Dorena bonds with her war cat Mishara, while Vaelin inspects Lord Orvan's disciplined guards and observes the centaur warriors' camaraderie. Astorek shares his backstory. Once a wealthy Valerian merchant's son, he was enslaved after his father's failure in Tokrev's ill-fated northern campaign. During a bear people attack, Astorek escaped death, guided through the ice by a mysterious, immense wolf that spared him. He was later rescued by Whale Killer and has lived with the wolf people since fighting Valerian incursions. Vaelin later confronts Alturk, challenging him for leadership of the Centaur. They fight brutally, but a wolf's howl interrupts as Kirill senses danger. Alturk regains his resolve, reclaiming his weapon. The chapter deepens alliances, reveals Valerian atrocities, and foreshadows impending threats, with the wolf's mysterious presence underscoring Vaelin's destiny as tensions rise on the ice. In Chapter 2, Riva attends a war council where a dying Valerian prisoner reveals the Empress's plan to trap Queen Lyrna's fleet at the Cut of Lokar. Fleet Lord El Nestra recommends landing farther north to avoid the ambush, and Queen Lyrna orders Riva to lead the vanguard with Realm Guard's support, commanding that all free swords be killed without mercy. After killing the Valerian informant to deliver a final act of vengeance, the Queen sends Riva ahead. Riva reflects on her scarred daughters, young women hardened by Valerian cruelty, and steels herself for the invasion. As the fleet approaches the coast, an unnatural, fast-moving storm appears, overwhelming their ships. Riva's vessel, Marshal Smolin, is destroyed, and she is thrown overboard. Struggling to shed her mail and equipment, she barely surfaces, only to see her ship break apart and her soldiers perish in the chaos. As exhaustion sets in, she surrenders to the icy waves, believing her lie has doomed them all. In Chapter 3, Frentis's growing rebellion seizes a wealthy villa abandoned by its master, freeing slaves and executing the owner. His forces swell to over 4,000, though weapons remain scarce, and he sends emissaries to spread fear and gather intelligence. He releases captured Valerian officer Varric with a message demanding New Keithia's surrender, signaling their intent to challenge the Empire. Meanwhile, the Empress Elvera, the Allies' servant, tightens her control, purges dissent, and sparingly spares a slave girl named Lieza, revealing her volatile cruelty. She taunts Frentis through their psychic bond, hinting that she knows of his plans and mocking Queen Lyrna's fleet. Frentis leads his army to the nearly abandoned port town of Viratesk, burning it to draw the enemy out. But his caution is undone, his location compromised. Assassins infiltrate his quarters, killing Limera. Frentis is ambushed and strangled unconscious as the enemy closes in, setting the stage for a devastating confrontation. In Chapter 4, Lyrna survives a devastating magical storm that scatters her fleet, realizing she underestimated the enemy's power. She regroups scattered ships and launches an aggressive counterattack, using Alornis's fire-spouting engine to burn through the Valerian line, dividing their fleet. Fierce naval combat ensues, culminating in reinforcements from the King Malseus and a brutal boarding assault led by Baron Banders and his knights. By nightfall, the Valerians retreat, but Lyrna's fleet suffers massive losses, with only 2/3 surviving and thousands dead. Lady Riva's ships are wrecked, and she is presumed dead. On shore, Brother Lucien confirms the Empress used a powerful shell body and will rise again, revealing the Valerian threat remains formidable. Lyrna asserts leadership, appoints El Nuren Fleet Lord, orders relentless pursuit of the enemy, and declares a march on Voller. Meanwhile, Alornis, traumatized by the destruction she wrought, refuses evacuation, determined to continue her deadly work despite signs of psychological collapse. In Chapter 5, Vaelin travels south with the wolf people as the thaw allows their massive canoe fleet to set out, gathering warriors and shamans from across the Isles. He bonds with Asterek and observes their mastery over wolves and spearhawks, while tensions rise over Lyrna's ambition and the looming threat of the Allies' servants. At a council beneath the ancient tree, Wolflance, the elder Far Walker, affirms prophecy, pledging the wolf people's full strength to Vaelin's cause. Darina uses her gift to scout, discovering a massive Valyrian army led by 7 generals, each bearing the same dark presence as No Eyes. The wolf people begin hunting to supply those staying behind, and Vaelin reflects on their culture, traditions, and unity forged by hardship. As the company approaches the mountains, they share stories of faith and gods, revealing truths about Alturk's past and the Center. The chapter ends with Erlin's unexpected arrival, signaling new guidance. In Chapter 6, Reva awakens on a beach after the storm, kills several slavers, but is captured by elite red-armored Valyrians who call her Garasai. She is caged, transported inland, and witnesses brutal executions of prisoners, including Lara's defiant death. The shield, El Nestra, is revealed as another captive, recounting how the red-armored warriors fought and captured him. Their wagon passes hundreds of poles with mutilated corpses before arriving in Valar, a vast, ordered city hiding cruelty behind beauty. Taken to the great arena, Riva meets Varulek Tovrin, its master, who escorts her to an audience with the Empress. The Empress, eerily ageless and powerful, mocks Riva, reveals knowledge of Vaelin's pursuit, and demonstrates her own emotional emptiness under the Allies' influence. She orders Riva confined with Lieza and prepared for deadly arena spectacles. The chapter closes with hints of Lyrna's survival and the Empress's plans to create a new general, deepening the looming danger. In Chapter 7, Frentis narrowly escapes assassination by elite Arisai with Ilion's help, confirming the Empress sent them to kill him. He organizes a trap in Viritas, flooding the sewers with oil and igniting them to burn the Arisai, though the fight rages all night. They capture one named Dog, who reveals the Arisai were bred and trained using lessons from Frentis's pit fighting days, viewing him as their father. Frentis executes him. The Empress senses Frentis through their psychic connection, taunting him and hinting the Arisai are not in New Kethia, baiting him further. Frentis then leads his forces in a decisive ambush, routing Valyrian troops, capturing hundreds of Varatai and gaining weapons and morale. At New Kethia, chaos reigns as slaves revolt, and Frentis's army takes the city after brutal fighting. The governor and many citizens are slain by mobs, while Frentis enforces Queen Lyrna's outlawing of slavery. Despite victory, the devastation weighs heavily on him, foreshadowing greater conflict. In Chapter 8, Lyrna's army struggles through weeks of relentless rain in what becomes known as the Mud March, eventually taking a northern road to speed progress toward Volar. Tensions rise among commanders over vengeance versus justice, with Norta opposing Lyrna's vow to raise Volar but staying loyal. They camp at an abandoned temple, the Portal of the Gods, where Lyrna dreams of those she's lost accusing her of bloodshed. At dawn, Marvin engages a 60,000 strong Valyrian force, routing them with archers, ballistae, and cavalry. Suddenly, red-armored Arisai cavalry bypass defenses by fording the river and storm the temple, massacring defenders. Benton dies, and Iltis, Devoka, Merle, and Alornis fight to protect Lyrna as they retreat to Norta's dwindling force. The Queen's daggers form a desperate defensive wedge as they prepare to fight to the death, but the Arisai halt, revealing a tall, grim-faced figure whom Norta recognizes as Aspect, leaving their fate uncertain. In Chapter 9, Reva trains in captivity with Lieza, urging her to prepare for survival despite her fear. Varulek escorts Reva under heavy guard to the arena, where she is forced to sit beside the Empress and watch the brutal sword races, showcasing the Empire's cruelty. The Empress mocks religion, reveals she killed the Valyrian gods, and taunts Reva about her lies in the Father's name. 2 fighters enter the arena. Morvek the Shield and Alern Varesh, Reva's former guardsman, to battle 9 starved, dagger-teethed beasts. The Empress offers Reva power, the realm, and her companions' lives in exchange for loyalty. Reva feigns composure, but seizes an opening, using her training and resolve to headbutt the Empress and leap off the balcony, triggering chaos. Her daring act shows she will resist capture and manipulation, setting the stage for a violent confrontation in the arena and a pivotal turning point in her captivity. In Chapter 10, Vaelin and his allies march east, guided by Erlin, who reveals more about his centuries-long life, his encounter with the Ally in the Beyond, and being saved by the blind woman Nursus Silnin, who tasked him with preserving the gifted. Dorena scouts ahead, confirming the Valyrian army is massacring mountain tribes, but Erlin warns Vaelin that uniting the tribes will take too long and that the enemy is baiting him. They reach the Loretha settlement near the Fire Mountains, where Vaelin gains passage by offering a ruby impressing the chieftain. Erlin leads Vaelin alone up the mountain to a mysterious plateau where an ancient city once stood, now shrouded in mist and silence. In the center lies a memory stone, said to be the last carved by a god. Erlin and Vaelin prepare to touch it together, seeking knowledge to defeat the ally, aware of the immense danger such truths may hold. Part 4, in Vernier's account. Verniers and Fornella arrive in Alpera, where the harbor is filled with warships being outfitted for battle. Verniers is quickly recognized, branded a traitor, and arrested, while Fornella chooses to stay with him. They are escorted through hostile crowds to the Imperial Palace, where Vernier realizes he has been vilified, and his homeland is lost to him. In the throne room, Empress Emran presides over his trial. Gervia Aruan, daughter of the former governor of Linish, falsely testifies that Verniers plotted with Vaelin Al Sorna, gifting him a magical sword to ensure his victory in a duel, and conspired with Valyrian agents. Emran accuses Verniers of aiding assassins in an attempt on her and her son's lives. Despite Vernier's pleas to share vital intelligence about the unified realm, Emran dismisses him coldly, declaring he will face trial. Vernier's fate is sealed, and his enemy's scheme to brand him a traitor is revealed as near complete. In Chapter 1, Vaelin and Erlin use the Memory Stone to witness the rise and fall of the ancient city built by Lionan and his family. They see Lionan's sister Essera, her ambitious husband, the future ally, and the creation of a mysterious black stone, a powerful box that holds great danger. The vision shows the city's brutal destruction by red armored warriors, the Dermis under the allies' command, and his theft of the black stone. Vaelin then meets an older Lionan, who explains the allies' fall, the guardians who killed him, and warns that the ally seeks power over death itself. Lionan instructs Vaelin to use the black stone to destroy him. The vision ends with Lionan's death in a volcanic eruption that buried the city for centuries. Returning to the present, Vaelin seeks to unite the fractured mountain tribes. He confronts a grief-stricken chieftain, rallying survivors with a vow to march south together and destroy the Valyrians. In Chapter 2, Lyrna and her forces battle the Arasai inside the temple. Norta duels the bound aspect Arlen, while Lyrna uses Malessa's deadly compound to kill multiple enemies. Aspect Canis intervenes, using his power to turn the Arasai against each other, sacrificing himself to ensure their escape. Lyrna leads survivors out, rallying her troops and organizing defenses as the Arasai retreat into the temple. She orders the area surrounded, cavalry to guard the causeway, and ballistae positioned for an assault. A devastating barrage of arrows and bolts breaks the enemy, followed by a cavalry charge that slaughters the remaining Arasai. Count Marvin dies of his wounds, and Lyrna honors his sacrifice. Aspect Canis is cremated, and Sister Kreja reluctantly becomes the Seventh Order's new aspect, with only 23 members left. Captured Aspect. Arlen recounts Empress Emran's cruelty, dwindling forces, and growing unrest across the Valyrian Empire, revealing her obsession with killing Lyrna and a mysterious mission in the north. In Chapter 3, Vaelin negotiates with Herkrin, the Author tribe's champion, and Mirvald, a Rotha shaman, both demanding leadership titles to unite the fractured mountain tribes. They reveal that 7 powerful red-armored warriors lead the Valyrian forces, wielding supernatural abilities. Vaelin assembles his forces, positioning wolves, spearhawks, and tribesfolk for a coordinated dawn attack. The battle begins with devastating wolf and hawk assaults that shatter Valyrian lines. Vaelin and Wise Bear capture and kill several of the Red Warriors, but Kuritai elites fiercely defend their leaders. Alturk is gravely wounded, but survives with Kirill's help. Vaelin captures another Red Warrior, revealing their fear-based powers. After victory seems near, Vaelin realizes only 6 enemies have been accounted for and races back to the ridge. He finds slain warriors, a dying Markin, and Kara traumatized but alive after killing a foe with lightning. Tragically, he discovers Dorena dead. slain by a lethal touch and mourns her loss. In Chapter 4, Riva fights in the arena alongside Alern and the Shield, killing several dagger-toothed cats and impressing the bloodthirsty crowd who shower her with flowers, signaling favor that even the Empress notices. Back in her chamber, she bonds with Lieza, who reveals she once tried to poison the Empress after her father's execution. Riva remains loyal to her queen and hopes Vaelin will rescue her. That night, Vaelin visits Riva alone, revealing himself as a secret priest and a guide to a hidden underground temple. He shows her ancient inscriptions and statues of the tyrants, legendary rulers banished by the gods. He warns her never to touch a mysterious black plinth that the Empress once used to test and kill a red-armored youth. He translates a prophecy, foretelling Livella's return with the Fire Queen, and presents Riva with Livella's famed bow, signifying her potential role in the gods' plans and the Empress's larger schemes. In Chapter 5, Frentis oversees New Keithia after its liberation, where mass graves and ruins show the rebellion's heavy toll. Fleet Lord Elnurin arrives with a Meldanin fleet to transport forces to Volar, and Sister Mariel of the Seventh Order gathers intelligence for Queen Lyrna. Mariel confirms Aspect Canis' death and Lyrna's victory, though the red-armored warriors remain a threat. Frentis dreams of the Empress, who demands he bring Weaver to Volar within 30 days or Riva will die. He secures support from Karavek, leader of the freed slaves, who promises 1,000 fighters, and from Weaver, who renames the freed Varatai Politai. Weaver reveals his healing power's dangerous cost, admitting he took part of Vaelin's gift and that his abilities guide him to Volar. Despite concerns about leaving New Keithia vulnerable, preparations begin for an assault on Volar, uniting freed slaves, Politai, and realm forces to face the Empress and rescue Reva. In Chapter 6, Vaelin executes the last captured Red Warrior, who warns that one remains in Alpyra. Grieving Dorena's death, Vaelin oversees her pyre and prepares to travel to Volar. Erlin consents to Corral using the Malessa's compound, allowing the ally to take his body. Now possessed, the ally speaks calmly, taunting Vaelin about Canis and Dorena's deaths, revealing he created the Black Stones and unleashed the Dark. As they travel south through devastated lands, they encounter villages in revolt, massacres, and lawless slave uprisings. Vaelin kills a self-proclaimed king blocking their path and asserts Queen Lyrna's authority. The ally alternates between silence, manipulation, and philosophical musings, describing the Beyond as a man-made prison of suffering souls. As they near Volar, his taunts about Vaelin's lost family drive him into a rage, and Alturk knocks him unconscious. Vaelin finally dreams again, haunted by grief and the looming confrontation with the ally at Volar. In Chapter 7, Queen Lyrna consolidates power, appointing Lord Lakrahil Alhestian as Battle Lord despite tensions among commanders, and confirms Lady Riva is alive in Volar, boosting morale. She orders a march toward Urvesk, using diplomacy instead of force to free over 3,000 slaves and secure the city's cooperation. As the army grows, she integrates freed slaves into her forces under Lord Norta, demanding discipline and promising justice and freedom, earning tentative loyalty from leaders like 63. The army presses south along the Blood Road, encountering abandoned estates, executions by the Empress, and signs of a collapsing regime. Alhestian engineers a swift victory over a Valerian host of 70,000, with slaves ferociously overwhelming enemy forces. Lyrna's diplomacy, brutality, and promises strengthen her following, swelling her army's ranks. Finally, as Volar's vast, gleaming city comes into view and the Meldanian fleet blockades its harbor, she advances toward the arena to confront the Empress directly. In Chapter 8, Riva meets with Varulek, who reveals her upcoming arena trial and offers her a legendary bow of Aaron hidden within the arena to assassinate the Empress, hoping to spark chaos and aid Queen Lyrna's advance. Riva secretly trains Lieza to dodge attacks and prepares her to escape during the fight. Summoned by the Empress, Riva refuses to execute General Lotarev but is forced to kill him, deepening her turmoil. As Lyrna's army nears Volar, Varulek hides the bow beneath the arena sand, giving Riva one chance to act. In the arena, Riva and Lieza face a monstrous steel-clawed ape in a deadly performance. Working together, they kill it, earning the crowd's awe. Riva retrieves the hidden bow but finds only a single arrow and Varulek's corpse, revealing the Empress discovered his betrayal. Surrounded by Arasai, Riva is given a choice: Save Liesa from torture and execution by surrendering her assassination attempt or act and risk everything. In Chapter 9, Frentis joins Fleet Lord El Nuren's plan to bypass Volar's fortified harbor, landing forces at Brokev's Notch to attack from the east while the fleet stages a diversion. Frentis leads the landing, advancing quickly inland with the Garisai, Politai, and freed slaves under Karavek. They discover widespread massacres, evidence of Arisai slaughtering civilians indiscriminately. As they push into Volar's streets, brutal ambushes and close-quarters combat erupt, costing many lives. Sister Mariel uses her deadly gift but grows exhausted, while Karavek and others fall. The Meldinians eventually reinforce them, overwhelming the Arisai. Frentis rescues a wounded Master Renciel, though his leg is shattered, and mourns Slasher's death. Gathering his dwindling forces, Frentis presses forward toward the arena, now surrounded by carnage. Ilian scouts and confirms the arena is undefended. Knowing the Empress awaits, Frentis rallies his warriors, declaring their mission to rescue Lady Riva and kill the Empress, leading them toward a decisive confrontation. In Chapter 10, Vaelin experiences a vision from Dorena and lingering souls showing the Allies' true origins. He is no gift-bringer, but a plague that corrupted humanity, creating the Red-Eyed Killers. The vision reveals the power tied to the Black Stone and warns that the Allies' corruption is like the Red Hand disease, which survivors become immune to. Vaelin awakens to find Al-Turk has knocked the ally unconscious, and the group continues south, avoiding conflict in lawless, ruined towns. The ally rides silently at the rear under guard, but Vaelin senses he must remain alive for now. 5 days later, they reach the outskirts of Volar, its towers rising above vast red flower fields. The ally warns that his servant holds Riva captive in the arena and her death is imminent. Realizing Riva is in mortal danger, Vaelin immediately rallies his forces, spurring his column into a full gallop toward the city to confront the Empress and save his sister. In Chapter 11, Lyrna rides through Volar's wealthy district, now filled with corpses and evidence of mass slaughter by the Arisai. Brother Solus confirms the route to the arena is clear, and Lyrna orders him to rescue civilians and hunt down remaining enemies. Merle rescues a traumatized young girl from a pile of bodies, deepening the sense of devastation. Lyrna leads her guards and allies toward the arena, joined by hundreds of fervent Cumbrelans rushing ahead, inspired by Lady Riva. Inside, combat echoes through the corridors as Cumbrelans clash with defenders. Aspect Arlen guides Lyrna to the underground cages, where they fight a fierce battle against Kuritai guards. Amid the struggle, Lyrna finds the imprisoned shield, now grim and hardened, and frees him. He vows this will be the last war he fights for her. With the Kuritai slain and prisoners freed, Lyrna ascends from the cages, pressing deeper into the arena as the battle rages. In Chapter 12, Riva faces the Empress in the arena as Liesa is held hostage. She reaches for the hidden bow, but sees Cumbraelan archers, led by Lord Antesh, firing from the upper tiers. Their arrows kill the Arisai holding Liesa, allowing Riva to rescue her amid chaos. The Empress confronts Riva, taunting her about their shared bloodline and her madness. As they fight, the wounded arena ape, mistaking the Empress for its opponent, fatally mauls her. The Empress collapses, smiling with twisted affection even as she dies. Fighting spreads throughout the arena, with Realm Guard, Cumbraelans, and freed Garisai overwhelming the remaining Arisai and Varitai. Riva spots the shield among the fighters, relieved to see allies joining the assault. The Empress makes a final outburst, cursing Lyrna just as Queen Lyrna enters the arena with her guards and escorts. Lyrna warmly embraces Riva, apologizing for arriving late, marking the fall of Volar's tyrant. In Chapter 13, Vaelin and his group ride through Volar's chaos, witnessing mass slaughter by the Arisai. They meet Frentis, Weaver, and the newly named Politai before pressing toward the arena. Inside, they find Queen Lyrna, Riva, and the dying Empress Elvera, but the ally reveals his true power, freezing everyone in place. He frees himself, revives the Empress with his blood, and explains his history with the Blackstone, revealing that he created the curse of the gifted and the existence of souls beyond death. He plans to use Lyrna and Vaelin to build a new empire, sacrificing all gifted to sustain himself and eventually escape the beyond. As he reaches to corrupt Vaelin, Frentis breaks free of his control, revealing that the spiritual seed Vaelin planted in him has grown. The chapter ends with the confrontation poised to turn against the ally. signaling a potential shift in power. In Chapter 14, Frentis overpowers the ally, holding him at sword point as Weaver and the Politai arrive. The Empress, revived in a new body, appears armed and intent on killing Queen Lyrna. Frentis blocks her attack, pleading with her to accept Weaver's healing and abandon her madness. She refuses, expressing anger and pain over her life of killing and abuse. As Frentis tries to reach her, Kirill shoots multiple arrows, fatally wounding her and ending her threat. The Lonak girl confirms her death, ensuring no chance of revival. Meanwhile, Weaver approaches the restrained ally, offering to heal him. As the Politai surround the immortal being with spears, Weaver embraces him, attempting to purge his power and corruption. The scene closes with the ally screaming in agony under Weaver's grip, marking the start of a critical confrontation that could end the threat he poses to the world. Part 5. In Vernier's account, Verniers awaits trial in a Valerian cell, resigned to conviction but determined to speak the truth. Fornella, frail and aging rapidly, translates his manuscript as "they wait." Late at night, Gervia appears to orchestrate their escape, aided by illusions cast over guards, including Rowland, their jailer. Fornella senses the messenger's presence and warns Verniers. Confronting Gervia, Verniers exposes her as the messenger's agent. She reveals plans to manipulate the Empire, raising a child heir to dominate the world, and taunts Verniers with claims about Selisan's betrayal. The messenger lures Verniers to a cliff with an illusion of Selisan, but Fornella kills Gervia, saving him. Mortally weakened, Fornella refuses to drink blood to heal herself, accepting her death. Verniers holds her as soldiers arrive, and Hevern confirms his innocence will be declared. Verniers chooses to remain with Fornella, watching her die in his arms as dawn approaches. In Chapter 1, Vaelin, Riva, Frentis, and Queen Lyrna drag the powerless ally to the Black Stone, where Lyrna forces his hand onto its surface, killing him instantly. Later, Alturk departs to return to the mountains as an ambassador. Wise Bear and Kiral leave with Asterek and the wolves, and Frentis sails home with Sister Ilian and his followers, haunted but resolute. Lyrna consolidates power in Volar, managing political tensions and diplomacy with Alpyra, while Weaver chooses exile, carrying both Erlin's and the Allies' knowledge. Riva departs with Lord Antesh, celebrated as the Blessed Lady, while Norta struggles with guilt over Darena's death. Erlin, now mortal, hides his true memories of possession. At sea, Vaelin prepares to destroy the Black Stone as ordered by Lyrna. Assisted by Alornis, he shatters the stone with hammer and chisel, scattering its dust into the ocean, symbolically ending the Allies' influence and securing their hard-won victory.